What's going on, everybody? It's your man Cleveland Terry, and today we're going to be reviewing the Intimidator Free Spot 60 ILS. Now, there are two versions of this fixture. There's one with a battery and one without. This one that I'm using, battery. So, first things first, the battery being in this base is an absolute game changer. Absolute game changer. If you weren't even into this fixture, the fact that there's a battery in it and you don't have to plug it in, and for instance, if you're running with ILS, that you can just turn it on and walk away, there's really nothing more freeing than that. And I use these over the weekend. I've been using them, but I use them over the weekend with the Humpter stands, and it was just real nice. We were running out of cords, ports to plug stuff in. I had to plug in my QSCs, and there was a whole bunch of lighting from the outside vendor. They were taking up a lot of our ports, so then I didn't want to run everything off the same circuit. So in steps something like this, and it makes it easy. Now, there's some love and hate for this fixture, but it's not necessarily directed at the fixture per se. It's directed at the ILS ecosystem that this fixture falls in. Now, if you guys will remember, when ILS came out, it started with the gig bar move ILS. It's a great gig bar, does what it's supposed to do. It has a smart brain in it that allows anything with an ILS receiver built into it to basically just turn it on, set it to channel 1, your DMX channel 1, and then it will just run its own program. So that means the ILS, that means there's a wash bar that does it. There's a couple of PARs, and pretty much anything coming down these trusses, which are all Chauvet lights in them, well, they're coming out with ILS versions of them. So when they do, we'll probably swap out all of these for ILS versions because it's easy. And that's the one thing I will talk about from ILS. We're gonna do a review on the ILS, not today, but we're gonna do it next couple of days, and we'll talk about this in detail because there's some things that I love about it, and there's some things that I absolutely can't stand. But we'll talk about that later. Let's talk about this guy. Now, if you've rocked with like the 160, Chauvet has sent me a gig bar ILS and the 160, and I was using that for the longest time until these came out. We actually purchased these. This was not from Chauvet. We purchased them ourselves, and I believe they go for either $1,099 or $1,199. So they're not cheap movers. They're quite pricey as far as comparisons and looking at other things, but there aren't too many movers besides like maybe JMAS and maybe a couple others that have the batteries built in. So you are paying for the freedom, hence the name free, of the Intimidator, and I'm okay with that. Here's my issue with ILS. As you can see here, I'm running ILS right out of it, and it does everything it's supposed to do. The problem is, if you were using the 160s, what you'll realize is that this mover, and most of Chauvet's movers, but not on my 350 because I just plugged that one in, and there's different gobos, it's slightly dumbed down to allow it to work with ILS. And what do I mean by that? I mean that if I'm rocking a 160, and the 160 is shooting out a very specific gobo, okay? Whether it be the squiggly lines or the color with the circles, whatever, what have you. If you guys know Chauvet, you know kind of their fixed gobo looks. So if I'm rocking the 160 and it has that gobo, if I am rocking the 60, it's gonna have the exact same gobo. Now, if you are rocking ILS and that's all you're using, then of course you would absolutely want the same gobos to be in all of your fixtures. That way when you tell it to do gobo 4, all the gobos are exactly the same. I'm not questioning that. And if you are full-on ILS ecosystem, then there's absolutely nothing wrong with this light. Where it comes into play is because ILS has dumbed down the system in order for it to all work the same and have parity across all their fixtures and all their stuff, well, it's ignoring some of the strengths of this fixture. One strength in particular. This is the first fixture in the ILS mode to offer prism. Now, if you don't know what prism is, I talked about it on my previous video. Imagine a circle, okay? And then take your circle and then turn that circle into 3. So essentially, a prism. It's increasing your surface area, allowing you to do more with less. It's a very big feature, a very popular feature among lighting companies and industries and us to be able to do more light with less. It has it in here. But you can't use it with ILS because ILS won't allow prism. It's not even a feature in here. So if you are 100% in the ecosystem, then it is what it is. You probably don't even care. You turn it on, you have a more powerful light. This is a 90-watt mover. Comparatively speaking, that's a bright light. I mean, just a few years ago, my 350s are still rocking 75 watts. And those have always been more than enough for the standard DJ environment. Yes, if you're doing production and you're doing big things and you're going to want to get those 150 to 200 watt lights. But for your average DJ, 75 watts and higher is pretty much a really good light. And I know the 160s do, I think they do 60 watts, somewhere around there. So they're adequate. But if you want something a little bit stronger, you're going to want to look at something like this. 90 watts, more than enough light for pretty much every DJ out there. So on the ILS, as you can do, you can turn this bad boy on. Now, this is a fixed color wheel, which is why when you see it go backwards, it does that revolving thing. This is pretty standard on all movers, like it just did just now. And then you have your colors. Now, I'm rocking ILS, so it might be limited in the colors that it can do. Let me show you what else this guy can do, because as I said before, it can do more. So if, for instance, you just got this light and you don't have an ILS or you don't have a DMX controller, well, the good news is right behind this here, you do have access to a manual mode. Now, this is a Chauvet thing. I've been looking around. I don't see a lot of companies that are doing this manual mode. So I can take this manual mode like so, and I'm going to turn off ILS real quick. Go to manual. So I can take this manual mode and I can affect the pan. I can affect the tilt. And I can get it to exactly where I want it. Now this is all without having an actual remote or controller. Bring it down, bam. Okay, I can go to the color. I can change the colors. And then I get it to a color that I want to use. Let's say, red's fine. Okay, and then I can go down to the gobo. I can change this, not that way, this way. I can change the gobo. Now, here's one thing that ILS can't do also. I can't rotate the gobo. You know, so it's nice and slow, gives it a nice cool visual. Then I can go to my favorite, which is prism, and then I can give it a nice, hey, look at that, prism. Now, I don't know why this wouldn't be a firmware update in the ILS system, but this is incredibly important to me anyway. And if you guys feel the same way, put it in the chat. I can adjust the focus, although the focus looks pretty crisp right now, and I can adjust the dimmer and the shutter all manually. So in the event that I just need to have this somewhere, well, I can make this happen. So let me just change the fixture to another one of my favorites. Like this is one of my favorites here. Love this guy. That's great too. I could do without that. I could do without that. And now we're going to get some movement ones. These are all kind of program modes. I mean, look at that. 2 of these on the floor. This is a good looking thing. Look how much surface area. Now this is a revolving one. This will go through all of them, which I don't really love, so, but that's fine. but it's kind of cool little effect going on. This is the reverse, and so on. The thing that I just showed you is available on any other DMX controller. So the WMX1, I can do the same thing that I just did on there and really kind of customize it to my heart's content. But if you're rocking ILS and you're rocking a command, well, all of these extra features that you've kind of paid for, you've paid the extra money for the battery and for these features, you're not going to have access to. You're going to have access to the battery, you're going to have access to a single gobo, which is fine, but it's not great. I love rocking Prism. Prism is the way, you know? Now, the battery's great. On a full charge, it takes about 6 hours to charge from like empty to full, 6 to 6.5 hours. So that's a lot. That takes a while. It'll run for 8 hours on a single charge, and I've already tested it. I ran it for about 5 hours on my last party, and when I was done at 5 hours, it was at about 38%. So I don't doubt that it'll run the full 8 hours with an optimized battery as it is. Another issue, now here's the thing, if I turn it off, dead silent, right? Dead silent. But check this out. When you are charging the fixture, in a second, the fans are going to come on. So even though your fixture is off and it's just charging the battery, you still have to hear that fan noise while it's plugged in. You can hear it right now. Now, I understand it's cooling the battery, and that's probably another reason that it takes 6.5 hours to charge, because they're trying to extend the battery life. And they don't want it to overheat, they don't want it to explode. It's probably a super large battery in here, so heat is always a concern. But it is a little annoying to hear that. Is it a good light? Yes. Is it a better light with regular DMX? Absolutely. Is it just okay with the command? 100%. But as I said before, I think that if you are new to DMX and you're new to lighting, these are things you're not even going to think about. You're not going to think about the fact that, oh, Prism, should I run Prism? What is Prism? Is that cool? You're not going to think about that because your gig bar doesn't do it, your 160s don't do it, so it's not even a question mark. But for people that are maybe a little bit above ILS, now you can really hear the fans rolling. This is definitely still a great mover, okay? I'm going to put this out there, and as long as you know how to maximize and to get your kind of your dollar's worth for this mover. But if you're using ILS, I don't know. I think you're not getting your money's worth, in all honesty, until they can figure out a way to put a Prism mode into the ILS system without sacrificing the hardware that doesn't use Prism, because that's going to be the issue, which is why I think that we're not going to get that in this iteration of the Command ILS, but I could be wrong. But just based upon them trying to keep everything with parity across the board, I can't see how Prism is going to make it into there unless the gig bars have Prism and the 160s have Prisms. So I'm not really sure. But as far as a light, as far as just being able to take this guy around, set it up anywhere, I have my Chauvet DMX wireless XLRs. I can put this anywhere and it will run. I control it with my WMX or sound switch. You can get both out of it, and then you're going to really be able to maximize this light because it is a good light under the right circumstances. All right, guys, if you found what I said are useful, hit that like button. If you found what I said are really useful, hit that subscribe button. Make sure you follow me on the Instagrams and the Twitters. Get on my Discord because that's where we're talking about all things Cleveland Terry. Let me know in the chat what you think about this light. Let me know in the chat what you think about ILS, and if you'd like it to do more or less or whatnot, just put it in the chat. Let's have a conversation. Guys, girls, always a pleasure. If I don't talk to you later, we'll talk soon. Peace.